Hi, I'm Krista Handley, and I've come outside on this gorgeous day to bring you another edition of 7 Minute Sunday School. But before that gets underway, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching. 7 Minute Sunday School was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic. We were all sheltering at home, and we were all on lockdown looking for ways to worship online and looking for online Bible studies and such as that. My own church, Swiss Elm Park Primitive Methodist Church, went online, and I thought a nice little kind of short adult Bible study might be a bit of a complement to our online presence. So thus 7 Minute Sunday School was born. It begins as a Facebook post on my own Facebook page on Sunday morning, and then eventually it does get added to our church's Facebook page and our church Instagram and our church YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is under the name Dennis Handley. That is our pastor and my husband. So you can check out my church, Swiss Elm Park Primitive Methodist Church, and you can also see 7 Minute Sunday School on YouTube. So however you choose to watch, I just thank you for watching. Many of us now, our own church included, are now back to in-person worship services and Bible studies. So I hesitated to continue 7 Minute Sunday School, but I've received a lot of encouragement to keep it going, and I'm very thankful for that, and I'm very humbled by that. I would like to keep it going as long as possible, and the reason being, I love the Word of God. The Word of God is fascinating. It is our guide for life, and there is so much that you can dig into and so much that you can get out of it that I would like to encourage you. I would like to encourage anyone who takes time to check these 7 Minute Sunday Schools out to get deep into the Word of God, because it's wonderful. So now I'd like to bring you today's edition of 7 Minute Sunday School. When the children of Israel were making their way toward the Promised Land after leaving Egypt, God gave Moses some very specific instructions about going into Canaan. Here's what it says in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. It says, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Send out for yourself men, so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their fathers' tribes, a leader from each tribe." That's Numbers chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. The spies then went out as they were commanded, and they were supposed to go with courage. They were supposed to bring back a sample of the fruit of the land, and they were supposed to check out the characteristics of the inhabitants and the fortification of the cities. Well, after 40 days, they did bring back fruit, giant grapes, and they brought back pomegranates and figs. After 40 days, all 12 spies essentially testified to the entire Israelite community and to Moses that yes, the land does flow with milk and honey. But then 10 of the spies were quick to point out the negatives. Rather than focusing on the fruitfulness of the land, they focused instead on the great size of the inhabitants in contrast to their own smallness. They focused on the fact that the cities were heavily fortified. Caleb and Joshua were the only two out of the 12 spies that believed that they should go forward with God's plan. God did say that he would send them into Canaan. So Caleb and Joshua were positive about it. That Caleb, in fact, said in Numbers chapter 13, verse 30, "We are well able to overcome it with God's help." The other 10 spies, however, instilled such fear in the people that the entire Israelite community began to cry and shout, "If only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness." That's recorded in Numbers chapter 14, verses 1 and 2. We can learn a lot from the faith of Caleb and Joshua. They believed God and they trusted him in spite of what looked like some pretty severe obstacles. But today I want to be sure we learn from the other 10 spies as well. There were two antagonistic reactions to that negative report from the 10 spies that the children of Israel began to exhibit. It caused them to fear, and it caused them to complain. In fact, it was actually their fear that led to their complaints. But I want to look at those two things separately, because I believe either of those two things, fear and complaining, can be the reason we're not living life to the fullest. Jesus told us that when we know him, we should experience abundant life. But let's look at those two things. Let's look at fear. I've read commentaries that say, do not fear or fear not is in the Bible over 300 times. Some have even said it's there 365 times, one for every day of the year. It's clear by that God is very aware that his children are going to be afraid sometimes. I don't think he expects us to never be afraid, but I do believe he wants us to take our fears to him. He is the one who can see the road ahead much better than we can. When we give control of the circumstances back to him, instead of holding on to that control, we can rest easy in his plan for us. You know, if we are consumed by fear, if we fear everything all the time, that is a spirit of fear. The Apostle Paul addressed this in his letter to Timothy. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, he says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." If you have a spirit of fear, that's not from God. It means you've gotten off track somewhere. And what about complaining? The children of Israel certainly got in trouble more than once over complaining. Their memory was so skewed that they kept saying that would have been better if they had never left Egypt, even though they were slaves in Egypt. Every time they were temporarily inconvenienced, they complained as if God had not done all the miraculous things he did to deliver them. Don't we sometimes complain like that, as if God has not done great things for us? Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." In Psalm 19:14, King David says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer." So let's not give into the temptation to fear or to complain. Jesus said to his disciples in John chapter 14, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." When we wrap ourselves in his peace, our hearts become at rest and content in him. This is Krista Handley, and this has been 7 Minute Sunday School.